Why do women with lipedema typically have larger bodies? This isn't true of all women with lipedema, but so many of us that have lipedema also struggle with body weight. And this is something that I want to discuss, although I realize it's a little bit taboo. And I acknowledge that there are people living in larger bodies that don't want to have a smaller body. But for those of you that do, let's talk and break down a little bit about some of the frustration and why it happens. Because this is a question that I get from people in the professional realm and clients alike. So it's definitely on our minds. And so I want to just approach it more from a scientific vantage point and tell you what I see in my practice and with so many of my patients that are struggling. And that is subclinical insulin resistance, which is insulin resistance that is sort of at the lowest levels before it really starts to catch up on labs. So it's happening at the cellular level. We know that women with lipedema typically have great metabolic markers, but unfortunately, we also struggle with body weight. Why is that? Well, it all circles back to a hormone called insulin, and insulin is our fat storing hormone. It's the signal that literally tells your fat cells and muscles to open up the door, the GLUT4 receptor, so that you can move sugar from the bloodstream into those cells and use it as energy, or alternatively store it as body fat. What I see is that when we can eat in a low insulin method, many women start to notice a difference in their body weight. This is a different level for all people. I can't just give a one size fits all approach and hope that it fits everybody, because we all are a little bit different in where that sensitivity may lie. But I will say what happens over time, and certainly as lipedema tends to progress, is that the larger the fat cells, the less efficient that signaling can sometimes become. And those GLUT4 receptors are less sensitive to the insulin signaling, which means that the pancreas is secreting more insulin, fat storing hormone, and the body is becoming further and further along in insulin resistance over time. And it's just a frustrating cycle. And I see so many women that get to me by the time they've discovered that maybe there's an issue that's not quite right. And they're restricting calories greatly. It's not about eating less, it's about what you are eating that makes a difference. We want to pay attention to the foods that are going to create more of an insulin response. And I feel like there is so much misinformation out there on the internet that women are following that actually make this situation worse for them. I'm going to put more in the caption about it, and hopefully you'll read it over and get some good insights. But you've got to be a scientist of your body. What works for your best friend and her best friend are not necessarily going to work for you. You have to sort of go through the mess in the middle and figure out what works best for your body, hopefully guiding that with data and tracking, not tracking food, but tracking your biomarkers and paying attention to exactly what's working for you and where you are starting to see the best health indicators over time. And sometimes that happens overnight, and sometimes that can take months and months. It sort of just depends on where you are. And I know that's oftentimes not the answer that women want to hear, but that's the sincere, honest answer. And I see that with myself as well. So I know it's frustrating, but I wanted to share that. I will put more about some of these GLUT4 receptor studies and lipedema in the caption so that you can read up and get more information. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.